Hey everybody, this is Eric Carter Landine, the host and producer of True Consequences podcast. True Consequences is a true crime and mystery podcast with stories based in New Mexico and the American desert Southwest. I started this show to bring light to cases that need to be solved in my state. You see, my brother was murdered 33 years ago, and his murderer still walks free. So I cover cases with an empathetic lens, because I understand what it's like to seek justice for a family member. I hope you'll give True Consequences a chance. You can find me wherever you listen to podcasts.
Hey everybody, welcome to True Crime Freaks, my new podcast. I want to tell you about the different ways you can support this podcast. One is you can go to my other podcast, Lights Camera Pro, where I interview TV and film professionals about their careers. And I also do movie reviews and TV show reviews. You can check out one of my online courses. I've got an Adobe Premiere Basics course and a Secrets of How to Start a Podcast course. Those are at thinkific.com. Just search them when you go there. We also have a merch store. Just search the podcast at teespring.com and check out our hoodies, t-shirts, and mugs. I also have a children's book called Feldman Runs Away, which is on amazon.com. You can always support the podcast by going to Apple or Spotify, wherever you listen, subscribe, rate, and review. This podcast does have graphic content. I hope you enjoyed today's episode. Thanks, everybody. A young woman who decided to travel the world. First to South America, then to New Zealand. This is where she would meet a man on Tinder who seemed nice enough, but she made a decision to go to his hotel room that night that would haunt her family and friends forever. This is the murder of Grace Millane. Welcome to True Crime Freaks, you freaks. This is a crazy story, and let's get right into it. This is Prosecutor Robin McCoubrey making a statement to the court in the Grace Millane murder case.
On a Saturday night in December last year, Grace Millane went back with the defendant to his apartment. She died there. A couple of days later, the defendant buried her body on Scenic Drive out in the Waitakere's.
According to CNN, Grace Millane had been on a trip around the world when she was murdered. According to her family, she arrived in New Zealand on November 20th and bombarded her family with photographs and messages of her adventures. On December 1st, 2018, the eve of her 22nd birthday, Grace met Kempson and visited several bars before going to his hotel. She was missing for more than a week before her body was found in the Waitakere Ranges in West Auckland. According to BBC News, Grace Millane was from Wickford, Essex. She had recently graduated from the University of Lincoln with a bachelor's degree in advertising and marketing and was on a backpacking tour during her gap year. Millane was on a 2-week stay in New Zealand after spending 6 weeks in South America. Okay, so let me just quickly cut in here, but I just want to paint the picture. There is a photo of Grace at her graduation, and she looks like she's so full of life, and she has her whole life ahead of her, and she has a million opportunities, and she just looks like any other graduate who has her entire life ahead of her and is going on a crazy fun trip around the world. Kempson, on the other hand, has had some really awful things happening in his life. He's done some horrible things even before he meets Grace. And I would hope that they would never meet. And, but we'll see what happens. It doesn't look good. Okay, I usually don't do this, but this is an excerpt from Jesse Kempson's Interrogation. And I can't play the whole thing, but he is lying, and then finally he admits to killing Grace. And so let's listen.
Did she have any injuries?
Not that I can remember. I was just panicking.
Did you inflict any injuries on her that caused her to die?
No.
Did you kill Grace Millane? Okay. And you're under arrest for the murder of Grace Millane on or about the 2nd of December. You understand?
Yeah.
Did you intend to cause her death?
No.
Are you ready to take us to where she is?
Yeah.
According to Sky News, Grace had no chance. Her killer, Jesse Kempson, was heavily built and had a history of engaging in violent sex. She had no idea that 8 months before, Kempson had brutally raped another British tourist. Leaving the base backpackers hotel in Auckland, she strode out into the city center streets dressed in a knee-length black dress, clutching a small handbag, and it was raining. It was Saturday night, time for fun. She had had a lot of laughter and conversation with someone who had caught her eye on a dating app popular with young people. She had been in New Zealand 2 weeks, the second leg of a solo world trip she had been looking forward to for months. At the end of September 2018, just over 2 months before she died, she wrote on Twitter, less than a month and counting, as she ticked off the days before her big trip began. Emojis on her social media feed hinted at her trepidation and excitement as she posted a GIF subtitled, "I'm going on an adventure," on the day she headed out first to Peru. After moving on to New Zealand, with Christmas approaching, she set off to meet a man for a fun night out on the country's capital city on December 1st. Kempson had been on Tinder before. He told women on the app that he liked dominating and strangulation. He had had rough sex with women before, as a waitress he went on a date with said he choked her after she asked him to. Closed-circuit TV shows Kempson drinking 4 bottles of beer at the Bluestone Room, a bar, in the half hour before he met Grace. They went to Andy's Burger and Bar, where they ordered drinks and sat at a table to talk. Kempson paid for the drinks. Grace seems comfortable and chatty with him on the closed-circuit camera. An hour and a half later, they go to the Mexican cafe. They have margaritas and sangrias and continue talking. After that, they go to the Bluestone Room, where Jessie had been drinking before. Grace seems very happy. She has been smiling constantly and talking a lot. Around 8:40 p.m., Kempson kisses Grace at the bar. They kiss several times more in the next hour. Soon after 9:30 p.m., they head to the lobby of the City Life Hotel, where they enter the elevator and they head towards room 308. According to Sky News, exactly what happened in the room after the couple arrived isn't known, apart from the fact that Kempson murdered Grace. What is known is that he didn't call anyone and ask for any help when she died. There was no call to emergency services. Instead, at 1:30 a.m. on Sunday, as Grace lay dead in his room, Kempson carried out a number of internet searches which indicate not just how unconcerned he was about her death, but how he was actively plotting to conceal it. Using his mobile phone, he looked up the Waitakere Ranges, the location where he would later try to bury Grace in a shallow grave. Then the killer looked at porn online. He took several intimate photographs of Grace's dead body. The following morning, with Grace still lying dead in room 308, he texted another woman that he had met on Tinder, trying to arrange a date for later that day. Footage shows him going to a store to buy a suitcase, then to a supermarket to buy some cleaning products, and then to a car rental agency. He rented a red Toyota hatchback car, and as Grace lay dead in his hotel room, headed out in the afternoon to meet up with the woman he had been texting earlier in the day about a date. The woman, a former journalist who cannot be named, said he was very intense and quite calm. According to BBC News, the woman said he was really persistent and messaged him the morning after Miss Millane's murder. He said it was okay if I didn't want to go on the date with him, and that's when I said I would meet him. We met up at Revelry, a very popular bar. Lots of people go there. When I met him, it was bigger than his photos showed. He'd obviously put on some weight. He seemed nervous. He said one thing on the date that made her feel uneasy. He told me this really bizarre story, she said. It's crazy how a guy can make one mistake and go to jail for the rest of his life. He told me about a guy he knew in Australia who had consensual rough sex involving strangulation with his girlfriend, but ended up accidentally killing her. It was an accident. Things went wrong, and he was really upset because he really loved her, but the guy got done for manslaughter and was sent down for a long time. We know now that he was testing out this story, but at the time I had no idea. It made me uncomfortable and I wanted to leave. Before we said goodbye, he said, "My car is this way." My car was down the same road, but I went down a different way. My instincts just kicked in. In hindsight, thinking of Grace being dead in his room while we were on this date is something I really can't comprehend, she said. According to the New Zealand Herald, he was separated from his mom for several years and hadn't seen any family for some time, and he was mostly alone. We really don't know much about his early childhood. Okay, so a million things going through my mind at this point. This guy has a history of doing this. I guess law enforcement doesn't know anything about it. There's no way that Grace could know anything about it, but still, a first date to go to someone's hotel room is just so sketchy. I can't believe she did it. She seemed like a smart young woman, but she did. She made that mistake. She trusted him. She felt comfortable. People have had one-night stands before. You can't really blame her, but it's just a sad, sad thing that happened. And it seems like he was really close to doing this to other people. We'll find out later about an ex who he threatened with a knife, and about another woman that he raped, and he's choked several women. But it really seems like there could be more victims at this point from this guy, and he was very close to killing more people. According to CNN, during the trial last year, Kempson's lawyers argued that her death had been accidental and occurred during consensual rough sex. The jury deliberated for 4 hours before deciding that Kempson was guilty of murder. They found Kempson had strangled Millane to death, crammed her into a suitcase, and then taken her body to a wooded area. According to BBC News, the killer's lawyer argued he should be given a minimum of 11 years as rehabilitation and reintegration remains a real prospect. However, the judge said he could not see how the defendant could serve any less than 17 years. According to Sky News, Jesse Kempson, 28, was convicted of murdering Grace Millane by strangling her in a hotel in Auckland, New Zealand, after meeting her via the Tinder dating app on December 1st, 2018, the day before her 22nd birthday. It has also been revealed that he raped another British tourist 8 months before he murdered Miss Millane, and has also been convicted of a series of offenses against a former partner. Just as he did later with Miss Millane, Kempson took the rape victim out on a Tinder date before bringing her back to his Auckland motel room. Kempson raped the tourist, then 21, while she lay on the bed crying and frozen with fear after she refused to have sex with him. She kept the attack secret until she recognized Kempson from media coverage the day he was charged with Miss Millane's murder in December 2018. Justice Jeffrey Venning found him guilty of the rape late last month. There was an outburst from Kempson. He shouted, "You have no reason to convict me. You're full of shit, mate." At his sentencing, Justice Venning said it was clear that Kempson did not accept his offending and told him, "You have no remorse or insight into it." During the trial, he was convicted of terrorizing his live-in girlfriend over a period of months. He subjected her to violent assaults, threatened her with a butcher knife, telling her he had been sent by the CIA to kill her. Kempson has now been sentenced to a total of 11 years jail for the 2 recent trials, to be served concurrently with the 17-year minimum sentence for Miss Millane's murder, but plans to appeal against both new convictions. According to The Guardian, Amina Ashcroft, a friend of Millane from Lincoln University, was messaging Millane throughout the date and told the court alarm bells rang when she described her date as an oil manager who lived in a hotel. "I was a bit concerned and I didn't show Grace that I was," Ashcroft said. "I thought something seemed out of place." Ashcroft said in her statement to the court, "I sensed Grace was having a good time and she seemed to be drunk and really enjoying herself. I do not think Grace had any concerns for her safety when I was in contact with her." Here is Grace's brother making a statement at the end of the trial.
This person did not just take Grace's life, but he took away a piece of my life as well. I've not felt whole since my sister's death. It is tough to carry on life as normal following the destruction of my family. But this one person who rips it apart. How do you carry on with life? We've ripped my family apart with the what? There is no reason behind this unspeakable act.
Here is Grace's mother making a statement at the end of the trial.
"I want you to know I don't think you do, because if I did, that means I care about you, and I simply don't. I will miss my darling, Grace, until the last breath when my body leaves me. The laughter, the conversations, the memories. You will never be forgotten, darling. You will always be my sunshine."
Well, I usually don't get into the victims' families because it's very devastating for them, and I don't want them to be listening to podcasts, and I just don't want them involved. I kind of stay away from the victims' families, but it felt appropriate here with what they were saying, and I just wanted to get a little bit of what they had said during the trial, just so everyone can realize how devastating this is for a family when someone is murdered and taken away from them for the rest of their lives. So I included it here. Let me know what you think, if it was appropriate or not appropriate, or if you have any other thoughts about this case. Okay, so if I wasn't clear before, he was convicted for life in prison for his murder of Grace Millane. This is Jesse Kempson, the killer. And he also got 11 years for his other 2 crimes, the rape and assault of his ex-girlfriend and the rape of the other woman. So total, he'll be behind bars for at least 28 years and then hopefully for life. Okay, so I have a few more things to say about this case. This is just my 2 cents. You can tell me what you think, if you agree or disagree in the comments. Once again, a disturbed and selfish man who destroyed so many lives. Why? He didn't have to kill these women or rape them. He wanted to control and dominate for no reason. I don't know if you have watched the show Mindhunter, but the FBI has always looked for a motive. And starting in the 70s, and even sometimes earlier, continuing to now, there have been a series of murders and crimes that have no motive. The killers have no motive. They say they don't know why, and just because, and some say they don't even remember doing it. It's not revenge. It's not because someone slept with your wife. It's not because, a custody battle and you're taking my kids. It's just, I did it just because. There's no motive. It's a sad situation for the human race that we have a small portion of men usually, but in some cases women who kill for no reason. But when Kempson is confronted with the murder and explains himself in the interrogation room, he cries uncontrollably. I've seen this in several cases where the killer is so desensitized when he kills, but if you confront him about it, he snaps. What a waste. I mean, the victim, Grace, was the portrait of promise and a person with a whole amazing life ahead of her, and it was just ended for no reason. Tell me what you think about in the comments. Okay, so I will just tell you that on social media, there is an Instagram called Love Grace UK, and it's in the memory of Grace Millane, and there's lots of posts about her from her family and friends. You can go check that out if you want. And then there's a very bizarre thing where Grace used to make paintings, and she did these sort of watercolor paintings, and the last painting that she made in October, just a few months before she died, was of a skull with all these colors. You can see it online. It's at Art by Millane on Instagram. It's still up. It's her art on her Facebook page. And the caption was, "Two can keep a secret if one of them is dead." And it's very harrowing because it's from a popular television show called Pretty Little Liars, but it's kind of close to the case and what happened. So it's just a very bizarre thing, and lots of people are talking about it on social media, so I thought I'd bring it up. But thank you so much for listening to this podcast, you true crime freaks. This is a sad story, and I hope this doesn't happen to more people in the future. I hope these people who have the desire to kill stop themselves in some way, or find something in their life that stops them from doing this, because they're just destroying lives. I will see you next time when we explore another chilling story. Take care. Sean Ventura signing off. Hey everybody, welcome to True Crime Freaks, my new podcast. I want to tell you about the different ways you can support this podcast. One is you can go to my other podcast, Lights Camera Pro, where I interview TV and film professionals about their careers. And I also do movie reviews and TV show reviews. You can check out one of my online courses. I've got an Adobe Premiere Basics course and a Secrets of How to Start a Podcast course. Those are at thinkific.com. Just search them when you go there. We also have a merch store. Just search the podcast at teespring.com and check out our hoodies, t-shirts, and mugs. I also have a children's book called Feldman Runs Away, which is on Amazon.com. You can always support the podcast by going to Apple or Spotify, wherever you listen, subscribe, rate, and review. This podcast does have graphic content. I hope you enjoyed today's episode. Thanks, everybody. Thanks to Joseph McDade for the music. I will see you next time in the next chilling story on True Crime Freaks. Thanks for listening, everybody. Have a great day. I'm Sean Ventura. Take care.